welcome back to this newest episode of Riding the Wall. I'm Chad, got my boy Justin here. We're riding that wall, gonna do it again.
Yep.
Did you watch Texas?
I did not.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a pretty good race.
Yeah,
It
I've
was
seen a lot of the headlines and news.
survival mode.
Yeah,
um, when the race came on, it showed Kevin. I think it was Harvick that had a temperature there right on his seat that showed the temperature in the car. And before the race, it said 114. And I think as the race started, it went up pretty quick to like 125, 126, something like that. And then B.J. McLeod said his cooling suit that he was wearing stopped working. So
that ain't good.
no, it was not good.
Why don't they just turn their AC on?
I don't know. Just roll the window down. The old school, the old school AC
The 255 air
Yeah.
conditioning.
Mm-hmm. Well, apparently they were all out of that, but surprisingly, I thought for sure, as hot as it was, BJ was gonna, he's not racing for a championship.
You think the heat is what caused so many problems down there with the tires? Because
I think so.
From what I did see of it, from the headlines and the highlights, it seemed like these really, really good drivers were having a hard time keeping them tires under them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kyle Larson loses a car. There's something up.
Yeah.
Him and Kyle Busch both. I mean, that's two of the best wheelmen in the world. And
yeah, it was. The drivers were saying pretty early on it was pretty sketchy. The track had no grip in the turns, and
I can imagine.
But they didn't really say it was
heat related.
Well, they didn't really say it was tires, or they didn't really say it was the track grip. They had issues. I figure it was the heat.
Yeah.
In the tires. I'm figuring it was the tires is what I'm going off of. But yeah, it took them a little while, and they finally figured it out. It got sorted out, but it's every so often there was always that one that just kept going out, hitting the wall. But you'll have that.
Yeah.
It made it pretty exciting because it's like, who's next?
Well, you can't pass, so there's only one way cars are moving up.
Yeah.
So congrats to William Byron on his 6th win of the season.
Yeah,
man, that's awesome.
He's doing pretty good.
I'm not a Chevy guy, but man, I'm dude's showing what he's got. This style of car is his style of car.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm not a William Byron fan, and I'm not really a Hendrick guy.
Me either.
But
but
they got it going on right now as far as Byron's team.
They figured something out.
Yeah. Well, they figured out how to survive. He was nowhere in the picture almost all day, and then right there at the end, there he is.
Back there keeping them tires cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There was one thing that happened that I was hoping it would get a little bit more airtime after the race, and if anything came out of it, I never seen it, which is kind of disappointing for me. But they were coming out of the pits. I don't think it was green flag pit stops. I could be wrong. I don't remember. But Denny Hamlin was coming out of the pits, and he was running up front. The Toyotas were fast, as we thought they would be. But he was coming out of the pits, and he wasn't to the far outside, but he was like right in the middle. And then Ty Gibbs, hold on, I'm getting this all wrong. I'm getting it all wrong.
Hey, I'm happy.
Ty Gibbs was coming out of the pits, and Denny Hamlin was coming out. It's been a week. Hold on. Because, yeah, I'm right. Ty Gibbs was coming out of the pits, and Denny Hamlin was coming out of his pit stall. And when they showed it from straight on in the pit road, you could see Ty Gibbs was just kind of like drifting he was drifting to the inside.
To the bays?
Yeah.
So they were both on pit road?
Yes, they were both on pit road, and Ty Gibbs was already done, and he was coming out. Okay.
So he should have been all the way out against the wall.
Yes, but he was like drifting. It's like he was texting or something. He was just kind of drifting. And Denny Hamlin goes to come out. Well, he had plenty of room if Ty Gibbs was doing what he was supposed to be doing. But as he was drifting, he wasn't paying no attention, and he just hit Denny Hamlin right in the passenger door. It was a hard hit. It knocked a hole in Denny Hamlin's car. That's how hard it hit. But, it didn't affect him.
Grandpa's paying for it. So.
Yeah, Grandpa's paying for it. But it didn't affect Denny. I thought it would. The arrow, I thought it would just upset the arrow on the car, but he made it work.
Maybe it's one of them things to where I mean, putting a hole in that passenger door like that's going to kick more air up to that front right wheel.
It could.
It will. Yeah.
I
I'm an
mean,
aerodynamic genius.
yeah.
I know this stuff.
I don't know what it did, what
I
it
can
didn't
blow a
do.
fart around a wall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't doubt that.
yeah.
I
Well, I
mean,
told you about the bank.
yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah, I
that's
remember about the bank.
aerodynamics. If nothing is, that is.
I mean, I learned how to cup a fart
Yeah.
from you, like with the hat.
Right.
I mean, cupping ain't that bad, but taking a hat and moving it like to another room and throwing it on somebody, I learned how to do that from you. So
Yeah. It works.
it does work.
Aerodynamics.
I was surprised, but it does work. But Texas was it
It's
was
a
an
roller
interesting
coaster
place.
earlier is what you said.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
roller
Well,
coaster.
for my fantasy reasons, fantasy standings, it was just an emotional roller coaster because I had picked Blaney. He didn't qualify well. He was back there with Ty Dillon and Corey LaJoy, which made me nervous to start the race. And as soon as the race started, the announcers were talking about how Ryan Blaney has a problem. Well, that just figures because I picked him. But then um, he struggled for a while, and then they started doing green flag pit stops, and most of the drivers came in, and Reddick was leading the race at the time. He came in to make his green flag pit stop, and somebody spun out. Well, Blaney was one of the 7 or 8 drivers that stayed out, so he got moved up to the front. He was in the top 5, and he stayed there most of the day, even though he kept complaining that his car sucked and he couldn't drive it, and it was pushing, it was
Well, it
loose, and
sounds
all
like
this
it was a
stuff.
problem with everybody, not just Blaney.
Right,
So
right. But he was a little bit more vocal about it, I guess. But he was he was up there around the top 5 most of the day after that. So he caught a lucky break with that pit stop. So then it was just a matter of me watching everybody else's pick kind of fall out, and and then towards the end on a pit stop. I think it was a yellow flag pit stop, but Blaney ended up getting a speeding penalty, which put him in the back, and then somebody hit the wall, and it was a big wreck, and Blaney was caught up in it. So he don't have nobody to blame but himself, because had he not got that speeding penalty,
yeah,
he would have been up towards the front,
that's on
and he would have,
you.
yeah,
That's
nobody to blame but himself.
yeah.
So, but yeah, it was emotional just for the fantasy standings. But now we're gonna have another emotional roller coaster of a
Oh,
day
yeah.
because Talladega's
It's
coming
here.
right up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and
But I mean, it's Talladega. We've talked even personally. We've talked about Talladega for years, but even on the podcast, it's not unknown knowledge that Talladega is one of our favorite races.
mhm.
And we had the spring Talladega race, and so excited about that when everything, and it wasn't a bad race, but just with these new gen cars, I think I mentioned it last week when we talked about our thoughts on Bristol. Was my comment was I'm ready to get back to some cars that can pass, and
Mhm.
that was probably one of my biggest disappointments with Talladega this past spring. Was it was so much train racing, which is great. I love watching train racing. I like to see which pack can hold it tighter and move forward faster. And but you just don't see the passing. Like
Right.
this year, we haven't seen the passing. And so it's kind of got me like, yeah, I still can't wait to watch Talladega, but I also hate to watch it just for the train racing when I know nobody's going to pass and watch a big one happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't mind the train racing. I just wish they had maybe a little bit more room to do what they
more
wanted to
ability to
do.
pass.
Yes, I mean when it's time to go, you can make that move. And we're gonna see. We got Shake and Bake right there at the track this time. We've
Yes,
got
we
Ricky
do.
Bobby and Cal Naughton. So let's see if they can pull off the slingshot move.
Yep.
See if they can even do it. But
Yeah, for you that don't know, Stuart Haas is doing the Talladega Nights paint schemes for 2 of their cars, the 41 and the 14. So
Yeah.
Ryan Priest is going to be in the Wonder Bread car, and Chase Briscoe is going to be in the old Spots car. That's pretty damn cool.
yeah, it is pretty cool. I mean, I I thought it would have been the other way around. I thought Briscoe would have been the Ricky Bobby
Right.
and Priest been Cal Naughton, but It is what it is. We'll see what happens. Um,
They probably drew straws or something.
yeah,
You know,
probably. We'll Rochambeau for it.
right?
So I mean, I think Talladega is going to be exciting. I mean, as it always is. Who do you think? What do you think is going to be some people to watch at Talladega?
Well, and only one person in our league picked them, so this isn't about fantasy league. But I was almost, just because of my great run of bad luck that I've had the last 8 races, I was thinking about changing up my strategy.
Yeah.
But I'm not, because I'm stubborn
Okay.
like that.
Right. Right.
That's just how I am. But I was thinking about changing it up and going with Chase Briscoe, just because he's one of my dudes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, I still think he'll be one to watch. Um, it's one of them things. It's any Ford, any Chevy, any Toyota can win this race. It don't matter if it's BJ McLeod, if it's it don't matter. Any one of them 39 drivers can win
Mm-hmm.
this race.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Daytona, Talladega, because the Toyotas bring so much speed at most tracks, and this one's no different. The Fords, they haven't done anything this year, but they are fast at these super speedways. And the Chevys are not very fast, but they always seem to have that one car, that one driver that slips in there and gets the win. You
Right.
know, even though the Toyotas and the Fords are faster.
But all three drivers, all three manufacturing teams, their drivers are very good at sticking together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that's really impressive with this roster of NASCAR drivers we have out here right now is, personal bullshit aside, all these Ford guys are really good at sticking together. All these Chevy guys are really good at sticking together, and all these Toyota guys are really good at sticking together.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's what it takes to win this race. You can't go out there and be the lone wolf and win this race. It ain't gonna happen. You
Yeah.
ain't gonna have it. Your car ain't gonna have it. So that's another thing that makes this interesting is, I mean, there might be personal drama between all 37, 38, 39 of these guys. We don't know it, but we don't know it because they're going out there and doing their job the way they should every Sunday.
Right.
So,
Do you think, now back in the day we didn't see much of this, but do you think today there is repercussions or more repercussions to helping another manufacturer? Like
as far as
like if
helping
Denny
him,
like if
I
Denny
don't.
Hamlin jumps out front and he's pushing, let's say Bubba, he's pushing Bubba, which this isn't really a good example just because he's the car owner of Bubba, but let's say a Kyle Larson goes by and he's in that fast groove, and Denny sees that, hey, that's the groove that's going to get me to the front, and he jumps out and he gets behind Larson, gets around Bubba. That's kind of looked at as helping the Chevy versus helping the Toyota, but it gets
It gets him a
it gets
step further.
him closer to the front or possibly a chance to win. Do you
I
think there's repercussions by Toyota on a Denny for not pushing that Toyota?
no, no, I can't. I wouldn't say that because I would say anybody even remotely involved in this sport knows that these drivers are going to go out there and they're going to try to win this race. Don't matter who's pushing them or who they're pushing, they're going to try to win this race. So I think there's repercussions for not helping, not helping your manufacturer, your like manufacturer
Mm-hmm.
in certain moments of that race. Um, if it's the last lap, I would have a different take on that than I would if it was lap 35. You know what I mean?
What if you are CEO of Toyota, right?
Yeah.
And you are watching this race and you see that scenario play out, where if Denny stayed behind Bubba, you might get a Toyota 1-2 finish, but with with Denny jumping up behind a Kyle Larson or somebody, and it benefits Denny in that moment towards the end, and Denny still doesn't win the race. Maybe Larson was able to hold him off
Larson
to
gets
win,
first,
and then
Denny
Denny gets second. If you're the CEO of Toyota, do you get fussy about that?
What lap did it happen on? 35 or the final
Let's
lap?
say 4 to go.
4 to go, and this
That's
happens.
still a couple of laps to play with, your situation.
I wouldn't be mad at Hamlin because now if I'm a dumbass, if I don't know anything about NASCAR, yeah, I'm going to be throwing a fit. But if I know anything remotely about NASCAR, I'm going to know, hey, we had a good day. This guy can't, Denny Hamlin, and I'm not a big Denny Hamlin fan. He's not one of my guys, but any one of those guys on that track would do what Denny did in that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he would follow that fast car to try to get his shot because you can't expect somebody that's done this their whole life. This is their career. You can't expect them to turn that switch off in that moment to not go after the win to push this car that's getting passed.
But that's the old school way of thinking. The new school way of thinking, and this is from what I'm gathering, just from what I'm noticing and what I'm hearing and listening to all these interviews in different places and stuff, it seems like the Toyota. Well,
I don't look at it like he's pushing a Chevy. I look at it like he's going after a win himself.
Yeah.
So.
But I think where we're at in our way of thinking about these and our way of looking at this, not necessarily as fans, because we have that same aspect or same way of thinking that you've got right now. I know I do. I think of it the same way. I mean, I'm from the opening green flag. If I can jump out behind this Ford and gain a couple spots, I'm going to do that. I don't care what's in front of me or who's in front of me.
Right. And it's the manufacturing side of the sport is only brought up in these super speedway races. It's not really. I mean, we all know that Toyota they sponsor NASCAR races. I mean, when we go to Bristol, it's Toyota everything everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Ford and GM, they're the same way. They're you go to Michigan to a race, it's blown up there too.
Right.
But these manufacturers, it's only emphasized when we go to these super speedways like Daytona, but mainly Talladega. When we show up at, down there in middle of nowhere, Alabama for this Talladega race, that's when everybody starts talking about manufacturers, and I mean, why it's important, all 36 races, it's only emphasized at these super speedways.
Right.
So I think that's where the pressure comes from is, hey, let's make the most of it right now while we've got a race where we can make a difference with the manufacturers. I guess what I'm trying to say is this is the only time that the drivers can really help each other out for a certain manufacturer to win. Teamwork is going to be a lot more in the variable than what it would be at Bristol or Martinsville or Texas or Kansas or anything like that. Right. They're going to be able to have a say-so in who they're pushing, who they're not pushing.
So I agree with everything that you're saying right there. It's one driver is not really going to determine the Ford, Chevy, Toyota outcome. It's going to be teamwork. Yeah, right. In order to make that
teamwork
happen,
is only going to really apply with this type of car right. at these tracks like Talladega and Daytona.
Yeah.
I think one side of me looks at it like they emphasize too much on the manufacturer standpoint when we get to these races, but we're only at Talladega and Daytona 4 races a year. So 4 out of the 36 races is really the only time this is going to matter. Right. So maybe I'm wrong in saying that they're emphasizing too much on it because they only emphasize on it really, I feel like, a lot more at Talladega than they do at Daytona. But
in Michigan, I think.
Right.
Just because it's their backyard.
Yeah.
Or Ford and Chevy, anyway.
So maybe that's why I feel like they emphasize too much on it because you hear about it every time we go to these tracks, but taking their side, I see why it's emphasized so much because it's only 4, maybe 5 out of 36 races.
Yeah. And I don't look at it as a fan from a fan standpoint. I mean, I can understand where Chevy, Ford, and Toyota all look at it every week as we want to get our car in the winner's circle. That's the game. But as far as it goes for me, I mean, I don't really care if I want the best driver to win.
Now, let me ask you this. This just popped in my head, and I don't want to lose my track.
Okay.
I don't want to lose my track.
Uh-huh.
So, who's your favorite driver right now? This season or last season?
I would have to say Larson.
Right. So, I know Larson is,
Mm-hmm.
but your favorite all-time driver is Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Yes.
But you were more passionate. You were more stuck to Dale Earnhardt. You were more loyal to Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Yes.
Because I mean, that's when your emotions were developing. That's where your love of the sport was growing.
Mm-hmm.
So you was tried and true Dale Earnhardt, right?
Right.
If Dale Earnhardt, let's say in 1992, or no, let's say 93. Let's go 93. Let's give Jeff Gordon a year in the sport.
Okay.
If Dale Earnhardt would have changed to a Ford, would have you still been a loyal follower of Dale Earnhardt Sr.?
Yes.
Okay.
Just because at that time it didn't really matter if you were in a Ford, Chevy, a Dodge. At that time it was
Pontiac.
Yeah. So many different things. It didn't really matter because the driver was able to put that car in the front. It didn't matter really what the aerodynamics was on that car. A driver could make the right moves to get to the front. You don't have that today.
Would have you became a Ford fan over a Chevy fan if Dale Earnhardt would have been in a Ford?
Probably not.
Okay.
It wouldn't have really mattered.
And the reason my gears started turning on this, I mean, shit started going sideways up here in my head, But it's like all of our listeners know that I'm a tried and true Tony Stewart fan,
Mm-hmm.
and Tony Stewart has been with Chevy, he's been with Toyota, he's been with Ford, So why we was talking about manufacturers, that kind of got my gears up here going pretty hard, So I was thinking, I'm tried and true Tony Stewart. I mean, NASCAR fans pick a driver and they stick to him.
Mm-hmm.
So manufacturers, they play a huge part in our sport because I mean, that's where a lot of the money comes from. They keep our sport alive with the fans. Now, I'm not going to go out there and be like, well, Tony's in a Chevy now. I'm not a Tony Stewart fan no more. I'm not doing that.
Right.
Because I'm a fan of the driver, and it's Rusty Wallace. I was a big fan of Rusty Wallace. He was in Pontiac, Dodge, Ford. I mean,
a good driver back in those days. A good driver could make any car fast.
Exactly, and that's. But also, like, you're a tried and true Chevy guy. I'm a tried and true Ford guy.
Mm-hmm.
That it does hit at your pride a little bit. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? And just talking about it hits at your pride. I can tell you that. And I can feel it hurting my pride a little bit, being like, Tony was in a Chevy once, and it kind of made me throw up my mouth a little bit. But I'm still that Tony Stewart guy.
I think that's when he got his most wins.
No, it wasn't.
No, okay.
None of his 3 championships.
Okay. and to your point, let's look at Kyle Busch. I was not a Kyle Busch fan because he was in a Toyota, and it was a lot of his attitude.
There you go.
That was a lot of it.
That's more me.
Just being in a Toyota didn't really help his cause. But now that he's in a Chevy,
he's got a better attitude too,
and he's got a better attitude. So it's not necessarily just the manufacturer; it's also his maturing in the sport. Like this past week at Texas. He kept telling his crew, I've got a problem with my right front. Something feels funny. I don't know what it is. Something feels funny.
He's not a mechanic.
No, exactly. He's just a driver.
He's doing his job.
His job is to relay what he feels. And that's what he was doing. And the crew said, it doesn't look like it's down. It doesn't look like there's any problem. Hold on to it. We'll bring you in on this lap. And he was like 3 laps away from coming into the pits, and something happened, and he went up and hit the wall. Well, the old Kyle Busch would have came in, blamed the whole crew, blamed Toyota, blame everybody, just
Kicked his car on the way out.
been pissed off during his interview. He was mad at the interview people, and those kind of things. It was funny because I wasn't a fan of his back then because he was making himself look like an ass. But after he wrecked at Texas, his interview was totally different. He didn't look like he was in a bad mood.
He didn't push the blame.
No, he didn't push the blame on anybody. He was like, we don't know what the problem was. I hate it for the guys, this crew. It was a totally different way of giving his interview with the same
disappointment.
The same disappointment and the same outcome that could have happened last year that he would have been totally pissed off about. This time he was actually...
I think last year he'd probably been smiling while he was saying it.
Well, he might have had a little smirk. Said, "Oh, this is a Toyota problem." But you know what I'm saying? He had just a totally different outlook on it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he's got going on behind the scenes, as we found out some stuff this week. But
he made a lot of money this week.
He made a ton of money this week. Yeah, but the Toyota Kyle Busch would have had a totally different outlook on that than the Chevy Kyle Busch.
Yep.
And that's with everybody in their everyday.
It comes with age and maturity.
And I think he's seen the writing on the wall at Toyota, and we've discussed this. He wasn't really in a place that he was happy with, And everybody, if you're not happy in your work environment, you're going to be a little more fussy. You're going to be a little more. Your fuse is going to be a little bit shorter. You're going to be quicker to get mad. But if you're in a place where you're completely happy, even when things go wrong, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Whatever. There's always tomorrow.
Job. You did your job.
I did my job, and we'll move on. And that's kind of what he was this week. And you can tell he's just in a better place mentally. So, but just Kyle Busch being in a Chevy makes me like him more.
Yeah.
At least I don't feel bad pulling for him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I've got a group of. And I've always been like that since I started watching NASCAR. I've got a group of drivers that are my group. That's my boys. And right now it's Harvick. I've been a Harvick fan for years. It's his last year. My group is Harvick, Briscoe, Blaney. And I like Brad and Busher. It's not ironic that they're all Ford guys, but
right.
It works out that way,
just happened to be.
But I wouldn't become not a fan of any one of those guys if they went to a different manufacturer.
Yeah.
I respect all the drivers out there on that track every Saturday and Sunday.
And there are a few drivers out there that I root for just because of their driving style or their attitude outside the car. Even
there's ones that I don't like because of
Ryan Blaney
too.
I like Blaney. I'll root for Blaney anytime.
That's
even though he's in a Ford.
12.
Yeah. Well, that's what got me started liking the guy. But I watched his dad race.
Yeah.
I watched.
Dave.
Mm-hmm. I watched his dad race NASCAR and dirt track in the sprint cars. So rooting for Ryan Blaney is not hard for me. It don't matter if he's in a Toyota or Ford or whatever he's in. I'm going to root for the kid. But, even Joey Logano. I hated Lloyd.
He's changed a little bit.
Oh, yeah, he's changed quite a bit. I never did
Brad
Logano.
did too. Brad used to be a whiny-ass bitch. You know? He really did.
Oh, yeah.
He was a Ford guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I drank Miller Lite, and he was in a Ford, and I couldn't cheer for him because
right.
he was a dick.
Yeah.
He was just straight up bitch, But now, the past 4 or 5 years, I've really become a fan of him.
Yeah, same here, And even with Logano, just because I might not pull for him in certain situations when they're on the track, but like when he's outside the track or he's outside the car, he seems like a down-to-earth guy. He's done his time, so he's not making sure he's got a job next year.
My big hurdle with getting over Logano is the whole Matt Kenseth thing back at Martinsville.
Mm-hmm.
When Kenseth took him out.
Yeah,
he had it coming and he knew it, but what certified that for me was the fan reaction.
Yeah.
at the track.
Yeah.
That place went fucking nuts, you know. But that's the kind of driver, and that's kind of racer, and that was just where Joey was at in that moment of time.
Yeah.
You know, every everybody, not just every racer, has got a bad moment in their life. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I don't hold that against him, but that's kind of the wound, the scar that I have from Joe at Logano
Yeah.
was how he treated and how he did that whole situation. I don't think Kansas did nothing wrong.
No, I don't think
That if that would have happened on that happens every week on a Thursday, Friday night dirt track, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know, but that one just happened to be in a national spotlight. So,
I mean, it's going to happen. I mean, if you're going to
but
be a hothead and you're going to think that you're the only one on the track, well, guess what? There's more guys out there
there
that think the same exact
there
thing.
is a racing culture that these drivers have to adapt to. You know, when you get these young hotheads, these young guns that come in to the sport, you know, in their first 4, 5, 6 years, that think they're just. I mean, it's fine that if they go out there and dominate, that's fine. But there is a level of respect that these veteran drivers hold over you. You know, and if you don't show that respect, you're gonna get handled,
Hmm.
and that's how Kansas handled it.
And going back to what we were talking about just a second ago with I'm a Kyle Larson fan, but just what 2 years ago when he was just coming back into the sport from his year off, um, he was going around to every local dirt track and just kicking everybody's ass. I was not a Kyle Larson fan of that. And back in the day when Tony Stewart was racing his late models and sprint cars at the local dirt tracks, I was not rooting for Tony Stewart. Now, when Tony Stewart ran NASCAR, I was a Tony Stewart fan, local guy. You know, I'll always cheer for the local guys. Even if I'm not a big Chase Briscoe fan right now, I'm going to root for him because he's a local guy, right? I never cheered for Tony Stewart at the local dirt tracks. Even when I was in the pits racing my car at Brownstown and Tony is parked right across the drive from me, sitting on his hauler, I'm not rooting for Tony Stewart.
Why
Just
not?
like I wasn't rooting for Kyle Larson a couple years ago when he was kicking everybody's ass in the dirt.
But why not?
Why? Because at that time Tony Stewart was making all kinds of money in NASCAR. Why is he coming to the local dirt track
Because
just to take the $3,000 that these local guys are racing for every week to make a living? He's got more money than he knows what to do with. Why are you coming to pluck their?
Ain't none of these guys doing it for money. They're doing it because it's in their DNA.
But
They do
for
it 'cause
him,
they
it's
love
the.
it.
But for him at that moment, and same with Kyle Larson, I'm putting them both in the same boat right here. It was for the love of the game, and I can appreciate that.
Right.
You know, because this is the roots that they fought hard and was successful in to move up to where they are now. And when I say where they are now, I'm talking about being in the Cup Series, right? These local guys out here are racing for $3,000 every week just to repair their cars, just to get them back out next week, or to put food on the table. You know, like the World of Outlaw guys. You know, so when Kyle Larson is going out kicking everybody's ass in a sprint car, to me, I felt like he's just taking money from someone else that needs it or is trying to make a living or trying to do the same that he did.
Right.
You know what
but
I mean?
but I look at it like, bring it on, Larson and Stewart. I'm gonna beat this professional. But we like we've already said, they're not doing it for the money.
Right.
But they're doing it because it's them.
It's the love of the sport.
Right, and you
I
can't
get that.
you can't take that out of them. You know, now these guys, hell, they might, you might show up and he might win $3,000, and Larson be like, give it to the guy that came in fifth. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause that's my car number.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. He don't need the money,
And-
but he's doing it because he loves it, and he's doing it to put the work in. And he's doing it to get that much better. He's doing it to hone his skill. So I can't. I disagree with not being able to cheer for him because of that reason. I can see what you're saying though. I understand what you're saying, but it's just one of the things you can't take that out of a driver.
Right.
You can't. You can't take it out of them.
And my dad asked me the same thing because he was a big Kyle Larson fan when
Still
Larson was
is.
going, and yeah, still is. When he was going around the dirt, I mean, he's still going around the dirt tracks, but when I'm saying he was, well,
Clint Boyer did it.
yes.
I mean, a bunch of them. You know, a lot of these guys came from dirt.
When in my mind, and I don't know if anybody will ever be able to change my mind because I'll always pull for Kyle Larson. Like when we went to Brownstown this year and we seen Kyle Larson, and I was rooting for the guy, but at the same time, I'm rooting for him, but I don't want him to win. It's weird. I don't
He don't
know
need the money, but that team might.
exactly. Well,
You know what I mean?
his team don't.
Why? I mean,
I don't think his team
those
don't.
were blue collar guys out there changing his tires in between them races. You
But
know,
who's paying him?
right,
Probably Kyle Larson. You know.
right. But
So
I'm sure they're not making $100,000 a year more than the guy in the than the guy in the next stall over.
it's just I don't know what it is. For some reason, if a NASCAR guy comes to the local track, I can't root for him to win. Now I'm going to be excited that he's there. I'm going to be excited that just him being there put 1,500 more butts in the seats. You know, I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to see them close up and see what they can do against just the everyday Joe.
And that's what I like about the SRX racing series. Tony Stewart, Ray Evernham, they started this SRX series, which is very, very, very much in common with the old IROC series.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they got like what 15 races a year, something like that. They're taking 13 cars every week to a different track, and 12 of them are going to be fielded by people like Ryan Newman, Tony Stewart, Clint Boyer. You know, there's going to be retired NASCAR drivers, retired IndyCar drivers, retired Formula drivers in these cars, in 12 of them. And then
Right.
that 13th car that they take is going to be the local favorite. They invite the local favorite or a local driver to race against them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's fantastic because if I'm wanting to, I mean, how else can you measure how good have I gotten in the last year, the last 5 years, the last 8 years, other than when I started, I couldn't win a race on your normal Thursday night Brownstown, but 2 years later, I'm winning Brownstown races, and I just beat. I came in fourth in the SRX series when I got invited to race. I just beat 8 professional drivers.
Right.
I'm growing, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I think that's awesome. And I mean, to me, I don't think obviously they're not doing it for the money,
Mm-hmm.
but it's to me it's just in them. But you know, I mean, you kind of look at it like a lot of these drivers now. Kyle Busch, um, he's probably the most famous one that have kids that are getting into karts now. You go to this go-kart track, this go-kart race, you know, do you root for Kyle Busch's kid or do you root against him because who his dad is? You know, he's got,
Well,
the most money.
I'll root for Kyle Busch's kid because Kyle.
But he's going to have more money than the other teams. You know that.
That's true.
I mean,
That's true. But if Kyle Busch was on the track, I can't really root for him. I like to see him. I like to see him in the local tracks, but I can't root for him to win just because of that winner's check. He's collecting big checks on Sunday. He don't need to be
right,
collecting big check.
but why would
small
you? Why
checks
would
on
you root
Saturday.
for his kid at a kart race?
Well, because his kid hasn't
his
been
kid
in the
don't
Cup
need
Series.
his kid don't need that money.
No,
The
his
other
kid,
kids might.
No,
you know?
his kid don't need that money. His kid needs the experience and
Right.
the just the going through the process of building himself, and he'll get there. I have no doubts in my mind of that. I mean, I think everybody knows what's coming with Brexton, but
Right.
I just can't.
But I mean,
And those are my two guys. You know, Kyle Busch
But
and
that
Kyle
go-
Larson,
but that goes
and even
right back-
Tony Stewart back
that-
in the day.
that goes right back to me saying, you know, it's a money thing. You don't want to see Tony Stewart and Kyle Larson win these checks that these other guys probably need.
Mm-hmm.
How can you root for Brexton when you know they're not going without missing a meal?
No.
You know, but these other parents and kids are out there hitting a circuit every week, they could probably use that money for
Yeah.
their teams.
Well, I
So
mean, it would be like, how would you feel this?
Joe, that's a big problem of mine with Joe Logano, how he came into the sport.
Mhm.
He didn't come up through the ranks. His dad's a billionaire or millionaire. His sister is an Olympic ice skater. I mean, anything that they wanted to do, they got to do.
Yeah.
Joey wanted to be a race car driver, so his dad took him to the number one racing school in America and paid for it, put him through it, and he comes out and he gets a real good ride. Now he had to put the work in to
Mhm.
do it. If he went out there and crashed that car in racing school every week, he wouldn't have got a ride.
Right.
So I mean, he had to put some work in. But that was a big problem of mine was he didn't work his way up to the ranks. He didn't pay his dues.
It was daddy's money.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's part of my issue with Logano
right.
early on.
But I also look at Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney different. They're
Okay.
both of their dads professional race car
Or
drivers.
Dale Jr.
Right, Dale Jr.
Mhm.
Brad Keselowski, Bob Keselowski, his dad was a race car driver. I look at every one of them four guys different.
Yeah. But if Ryan Blaney came to Brownstown, I'd like to see him. I'm gonna try and get his autograph. I'm gonna say, hey, what's going on, bub? But I'm not gonna root for him to win.
Yeah.
I just
I'm not trying to change
I
your
just
mind.
can't do it.
I think we're just on
because-
opposite sides of the fence.
Right,
there.
I get it. I mean, we're gonna have that.
Right.
Like if you're trying to, like your son gets into racing, right? And he's at like an entry level, or maybe he makes it up to a modified or a late model, and then Kyle Larson comes to town, and you've got this big race coming up, and you've been working on the car with him, and he's been honing his skill. He's moving up, and he's getting towards the front of the pack, and he's due to win one anytime, right? And he's running up in the front, and then Kyle Larson beats him out, and your son finishes second. How are you gonna make that feel? How are you gonna feel about that?
I'm going to give him a hug and say, you just got beat by a world champion. Don't cry over it. You took second place to a world champion. You took second place to a NASCAR champion. How you going to be mad at that?
Well, I can see that. I can see that outlook.
That's exactly how I'd handle it. I mean, I'm gonna ride him hard week in and week out. But that's the week I'm gonna give him a hug and say, Bub, I don't care how you did. You just raced a NASCAR champion. You can always say that. You'll be able to tell your grandkids.
But if it wasn't for Kyle Larson coming down from the Cup Series, 4 series is down, your son would have won that race.
Yeah.
And he would have got $30,000 in a pocket.
You'll win next week. Larson won't be here.
I just have a hard time. I have a hard time with that. And I've got stories about Tony Stewart as far as why. I'll pull, and I said it even back then, I'll pull for him every Sunday. But Saturday night, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And there for a while, he was coming to Brownstown quite often in his late model.
His dad was racing for a long time over here.
Mm-hmm. And there was even one interview, and this was years back. I don't remember. It was early 2000s. He came to Brownstown, and he got beat. There was a guy up there named John Gill, who is local legend.
Yeah.
I mean, number 75. He was, I don't know, they called him the Cowboy or something like that. I don't know. I don't know John Gill personally, but I remember watching him. I've even got his die cast. But John Gill just outraced Tony Stewart. Tony was doing everything he could. He couldn't catch him. And then they ran the Brickyard that year, and they interviewed Tony on TV, and they said, "What's your plans?" Blah blah blah. He said, "I think I'm gonna go back down here to Brownstown to see if I can't beat John Gill this week." And he did. He came back down to Brownstown. I think he ended up getting him that week. I don't think John was there, but I don't remember. But I think Tony ended up winning that second.
But I mean, that's what a diehard racer. They hold those losses so dear to their heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like slapping their mom.
Mm-hmm.
And to get beat because they know how good they are, and they're doing everything. They're pulling everything out of their pocket that they can do to beat John Gill like he tried that night, and he couldn't do it.
Right.
John was the better driver. John had the better car that night.
Right.
So, it'd be different if John Gill beat him in that race and Tony got out of his car and went over and punched him in the face just for beating him. You know what I'm saying? That I got a problem with that.
Yeah.
But there was, anytime Tony would show up at them tracks, he would do autographs, and he wouldn't leave until every fan got their autograph. And to me, that says more about him being at his hometown track than I'm just here to get a win. That win ain't gonna make or break Tony Stewart.
Right.
But
I've got a couple stories on
yeah,
that, but
but
we'll save that for another time.
but I'm not gonna cheer for him just because they're a NASCAR driver or because like if
Right, and that's kind of what I'm saying. Just because he's a
no,
NASCAR driver doesn't mean I'm going to root for him to
yeah,
win.
absolutely. If it's one of my guys that are showing up, I'm obviously gonna pull for him.
Yeah.
But just because it's a NASCAR driver, I'm not gonna pull for him.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of what
like
I was getting
Corey
at.
LaJoy. If he showed up at Brownstown, would you pull for him?
Maybe. I don't know.
He's
Probably
not. He's not one of them that's cashing checks
I'm
every
going to
week
root
in
for
NASCAR.
him. I'm going to root for him. I don't want him to win because I don't want him to take money from one of these local guys that are here every
then
week.
They should beat him.
They should be. Well, they should. But, if he gets up there towards the front, I don't want to see him win. I want to see him do good. I want to see everything be safe. But at the same time, I'll root for Corey LaJoy on Sunday. Probably not going to root for him on Saturday night.
But I mean, I can see myself being on the track with a professional like that. And if it's one I don't like, I'm probably going to be harder on them if I get the opportunity than I would if it was somebody I did like. But if I got the opportunity to race with Harvick or Blaney or Briscoe or Stewart for that matter, as much respect as you have for them NASCAR drivers that you look up to, if they beat me fair and square, I'm going to get out of my car and shake their hand.
Yeah.
It's my job.
Well,
Now it's my job to get 51 checks a year, not 52, because they just took it from me. You know.
Right. I can see that point. I got a few Tony Stewart stories for you.
I know you
when
do.
we get to the off season. and I rooted for Tony back then. I'd still root for the guy now. I like the guy.
Yeah, big fan of the show.
Oh yeah, huge fan of the show. But I've seen a couple things out of him that I wasn't too happy with.
Well, I mean,
but I still even then I wasn't happy in that moment. But I still pulled for the guy on Sunday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know, but to say just because Kyle Larson is in a Chevy doesn't mean I'm going to pull for him every time I see him on the track.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm going to root for the local guys. When the NASCAR guy comes to the local guy's setting, I'm going to pull for the local guy.
Yeah, I would like to see the
Cup guy.
local guys beat these professionals as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that by any means. I want to see these local guys do it. Shoot your shot.
Right. And a
But
lot of them do.
if you're going to take your shot at the king, you better not miss. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. Is if I'm a NASCAR driver and I show up to these small town short tracks, I'm not taking it easy on you because I think you deserve.
And they know everybody's gunning for them.
Right. You're right. There's a target on them guys.
Yeah.
They're going out there to beat the professional.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly how I'm going to look at it: is shoot your shot because. Just like I said, if you're going to shoot at the king, you better not miss. Beat me if you can beat me.
And I will say,
I'll race you clean as long as you race me clean.
Right. And just as a side note, I've seen a lot of good late model drivers come through Brownstown.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and I don't know why, when Tony Stewart was there in a late model, he looked so much faster than everybody else. It's just, I don't know what he was doing, whether it was he was so smooth or what, but he just looked way faster. Even if he wasn't winning the race, he just looked so much faster.
He flows like smoke.
It's like that car had a rocket on it, man. It's like
he flows like smoke.
So I mean, he was definitely a badass, still is. But so let's talk about this playoffs. What do you think? I've got written down here. What do you think each guy needs to do besides just winning? What does each guy need to do to get to the next stage? And we don't have to go through everybody. I mean, Byron's he's automatically in the next stage, right?
Right.
Hamlin is sitting right behind him with 37 points to the good. I think even if he just rides there, he's going to be all right.
What they got to do, and this goes for everybody on the list, but especially the four that are under right now, and I'm going to say the four that are above the cutoff line right now, those eight have to watch their penalties. Last year and this year has been completely ate up with these professionals making rookie mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And well, you seen it with Blaney last week, getting a speeding penalty on pit road. He could have won that race.
Yeah.
If that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Let's just call it what it is.
He definitely wouldn't have been back there when he wrecked out.
Exactly.
He shot himself in the foot.
But that's just not the mid-year guys either. That's not the Blaneys and the Chase Elliott's and stuff like that. It's not only them making mistakes. It's by far more the veterans making them than it is the newer guys. You're seeing Truex and Hamlin and them guys make these mistakes. Lug mistakes, speeding mistakes. I mean, just stupid shit that these guys know better than to do.
Right.
It's about the basics, and that's what those 8 drivers really need to focus on, getting back to the basics on these next few races.
Well, we've got Talladega and the Roval coming up. What does Larson, who is 2 points above the cutoff line right now, he doesn't do well at these super speedways.
No,
he's got the speed. He just always gets caught up in something.
I mean, Larson's 2 above the cutoff, and Bubba's 2 below. Mm-hmm. Bubba is most successful at these super speedways.
Right.
So I think what Larson needs to do, if I'm Kyle Larson, if I'm Kyle Larson's team, I'm going to try to qualify somewhere near the back. Just putting it out there. I'm going to try to qualify somewhere near the back. I'm going to try to ride it out. Let all this bullshit take place that we know is going to happen. I mean, it might not happen until the second to last lap for all we know. But if I'm Rick Hendrick, I'm going to say, you guys try to qualify. All 4 of you. Try to qualify somewhere near the back. I'm not worried about getting a pole award. I'm not worried about none of that. But you got Bowman and Elliott that's not in the chase. Then you got Byron and Larson, who Byron's already in the next round. Larson this is probably going to be his toughest round.
Yeah, he was looking good until Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was looking good at Texas until shit hit the wall, Right. So, I mean, it's he could have won Texas in my eyes if not been for the same issue a lot of the other great drivers were having. It wasn't something he did, but what I think needs to happen is these teams, whether it be Stewart-Haas or Hendrick or Penske or Roush, Fenway, Keselowski, they need to group. I can see them all having the same plan. They can't all qualify to the back. Somebody's going to be in the front. So, but what I'm going to tell my guys is try to qualify close to the same speed, same time. Try to get yourself in the area of one another, preferably towards the back.
So as an owner, you want them playing as a team.
Absolutely.
Make this a team game all the way to the end.
Absolutely. Just because that's the only way you can win this race.
Might not be a bad idea.
That would be my strategy going into this thing would be, I need you 3 or you 4, however many, like Penske's got 3 cars, Cindric, Blaney, Logano. I'm going to try to tell my guys, you don't have to be bumper to bumper, but try to get in the same area, qualifying, preferably towards the back, and you can team up from there.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to have to happen. But I'm going to try to choose to be towards the back and wait for the shit to hit the wall and miss it because I'm in the back. You're either going to have to put all four cars in first, second, third, fourth, or you're going to have to put them all 4 somewhere in the back. You don't want to be 3rd row to 12th row. To
right.
me,
yeah.
You don't. You want to be out of that because when they start to develop you're going to have the two lines starting out. You're going to have the two trains starting out. Then that third line's going to develop. You don't want to be, to me, I don't want my team in that third row to 12th, 13th row when that third line starts to take form.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best strategy to go as far as played as a team because everybody in all 12 of these, except for one, has a good team around them to help them get there. That one is Kyle Busch right
Right.
now, just because I mean he's in there. He's got a teammate, but
He's got Chevys out there,
he's got Chevys out
but he
there.
don't have a teammate out there.
Right, you don't have an RCR teammate. I mean he does, but it's iffy, you know.
But that's what I'm going to tell. That's what I'm going to tell Larson. And these teams also, like Byron and Larson, they're both fighting for a championship. You've got two other teammates that, yeah, they want to win, but those two, if I'm Rick Hendricks, I'm going to say, Bowman, Elliott, your job is to make sure Byron and Larson
Get to the front.
get to the front.
Stay behind them the whole time.
I don't care if you're behind them or in front of them. You can win the race as long as Larson's right on your tail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm going to tell my guys. Is I don't care if he's pushing you or you're pushing him, but your job is you don't leave him.
Right.
He can leave you, but you better not leave him.
Do you think Chase Elliott can handle them rules?
I would like to think he could, but I don't know. I'd like to sit down with Chase Elliott. I'd like to sit down and have a conversation with him.
See
and
what's going through his head.
it'd be 100% respectful.
Right.
And I beat on him a lot, I know, but I give the guy props. He wouldn't be there if he wasn't worthy of being there. And we've seen what he could do the last 7 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
He's a winner. He's a champion. The dude he's got it. But whatever he's got going on this year.
Yeah. Do you think he can put his pride to the side and push a Byron or a Larson to a Talladega win?
I mean, if you can't put it aside for Larson, who can you put it aside for?
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
I think
he's to me, he's probably the best driver on the track right now.
Larson.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Him and Kyle Busch.
Mm-hmm. I think.
But when you look at statistics, who's the best driver on the track? His other teammate, William Byron.
Right, and I think Chase Elliott could probably push Byron to a win. I just don't know if his pride will let him push Larson to a win. And that's because even though Byron has more wins than anybody this year, I think there's some behind the scenes drama with Elliott and Larson. It's not really drama. I think it's they both
egos.
know they're good. Yes, it's
Two
egos.
egos.
They both know they're good. They both know they're in the best garage available. And they both think they are the top dog in that garage.
Okay, so if Kyle Larson, if you and Chase Elliott are listening, listen to me. There's room for both of you. Period. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. And if Rick and Jeff had any words of wisdom for all 4 of those drivers in his garage, that would be the words that they would need to reiterate is, we've got room for all of you.
Mm-hmm.
There is no, I mean, we're all 4 big dogs. There is no 2 big dogs, 2 little dogs. There's none of that shit in that garage.
Right.
If you get pulled into the Hendrick stable, you're doing all right.
You're a big dog.
Yeah, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
So it's and it's not just because of what they make, but Rick isn't going to accept a mid-carter. He's not going to accept.
Well, Rick's going to take the best talent and give them the best opportunity.
Right.
What they do with that is what they do with it.
Right. And that's somebody, Rick loves the sport. Rick is a NASCAR fan. You know what I'm saying? He wants this sport to keep going and be bigger than what it is every year. And he's gonna get those performers.
Yeah.
Just like Richard Childress did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, him and Kyle Busch had issues years and years ago. But when he came available, he put that bullshit aside and he brought the king in. You know, well, I won't say the king because we all know who the king is,
Right.
but he brought in the big dog.
Hmm.
You know,
Best talent available at the
right?
time.
But I mean, and we discussed it even when it was happening. I think Richard did it for one. He got a huge fish, and two, he got a huge fish that can teach his grandson something.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
that's the kind of guys that Rick is going to hold on to. He's going to hold on to the Larson, the Elliott, the Byron, maybe the Bowman. I
Maybe.
don't know.
We'll see what he does next year.
Right, but because 10 years from now, when the next group of Hendrick drivers is coming in, who you want to teach them? You want Larson, you want Elliott, you want Byron teaching them guys.
Yeah. Hmm. I agree with that. Do you think? I don't know. I wanted to pose the question of who do you think's going to be the next four out, but I think it's a little bit early. I don't know.
Well,
Well, it's not really early,
no,
but
I don't want to. I don't want to do that on the
it's tough to
on the
call
on the
before.
bubble either.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm going to say next four out would be Truex, Chastain, Bubba, and Blaney.
I'm thinking it's probably going to be Truex, Bush, and I hate to say that, Blaney, and I'm going to say Bubba, just because I think. Hold on. Yeah, Bush, Blaney, Bubba, and Truex. Okay. Just because I think Bubba's going to try too hard at Talladega. I mean, the results show he should be towards the front. He's going to have the speed to be towards the front. And these are the tracks that he does best at. But I think he's going to try a little bit too hard to win the race and not just settle for a third or a fourth place that would probably do pretty good to lock him in to the next round. But the Roval's not going to do him any favors.
No.
You know, so I think he's going to try too hard
And
at
that's-
Talladega,
that's
and
why-
then the Roval is going to screw him.
That's why I didn't put Bush in my four out because he's got to win at Talladega. He won there in the spring, right? He got a few wins. So, but he was the last winner there in the spring.
Yeah.
So that don't mean shit. Honestly, it really don't.
I think a Daytona or Talladega winner is just it's a lot of luck.
It is,
you know.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have the equipment. You got to be able to know how to listen to your car to say. You got to have a gut instinct, and you got to be able to listen to your car, and you got to have good equipment when you show up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I mean is like Denny Hamlin. He is very good at listening to his gut. He's got the equipment, but he never seems to pan out very well. So
Right.
you can throw out what I just said too if you want to, but when you're going around a 2.66 mile track at over 200 miles an hour, and you feel something on lap 50 that you didn't feel on lap 30. Yeah, it might be tire wear, but those drivers have to know when something isn't right in their car. Just like he was talking about Kyle at Texas, he knew something was wrong in the right front. He didn't know what, but he knew something was. So, going back to Denny Hamlin, we've seen him on these super speedways that he'll be running up front or there in the middle, and you'll just see him start falling back. When somebody gets out of the train, they just go.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll hear him every time come over the radio. I had to get out of there, because he knows something's about to happen.
Oh yeah.
And you can't teach that. That's from 15 years on the track. So I think that's what it's going to take to win this, is a lot of luck, like you said. But these guys have to listen to their car, and they have to listen to their gut.
Oh yeah. And I used to not like Denny Hamlin's strategy of fall back to the back and ride, but it works for him. You know what I mean?
But for us, we see it as like he got scared.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
that's how we see it. You know what I mean? But and maybe sometimes it is because we've never been in that position. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. Yeah, of course I'm gonna be like, fuck no, I wouldn't get scared. That'd be awesome.
Right.
But we've also never been there.
Yeah.
So
For him, it's like it's a chess move.
Right.
I'm
For
just
him,
or
it
choosing
is.
his battle.
Right.
You know.
Maybe it's his anxiety going up, and it's not his gut. Maybe it's just his anxiety, and he can't focus the way he needs to focus, so he's going back.
Yeah.
But that's what he's pushing it to. Is got a feeling something's about to happen.
And I
But
respect that.
right.
You know. So I agree with all that. Do you think Reddick can do anything at Talladega?
I think he can because he's got a great. I mean, I won't say that. He's got some really fast Toyota. He's a fast Toyota,
Mm-hmm.
but he's got other fast Toyotas with him, and they've proven that they can hold their own on these tracks. When they line up together, they can do their shit. Uh, I think Reddick is. I think he's got that race car driver mentality. He knows. I think his gut instinct is pretty damn good.
When to race and when to not.
Right.
I
You know,
bet you.
he's not going to race somebody for the win on lap 100.
Right.
When we're going 200 laps.
Yeah, and I think Reddick's going to be all right just for what you said. He's going to be in a fast Toyota. He's smart. I think he's going to survive Talladega, and he's a pretty good road course driver.
And that's
so
the perfect word. You have to be able to survive it.
Yes.
You don't have to. You don't have to be the fastest car. You don't have to have the best team.
Survive it until 30 to go, 25 to go, something like that, and
4 to go.
and then give it hell. Well, it depends on where you're at. I
Right.
mean, if you're running in the top 10, yeah, 4 to go. But if you're running in the back, you do a Denny Hamlin, and you're waiting.
We've seen Talladega so many times when there's 10 laps to go, and they still do 3 cautions in those 10 laps.
Right.
You
3
never restarts.
And it takes 2 just to get up to speed. So, I think Reddick's going to be all right. Kyle Busch, he's the big question mark, and I don't think he's going to make it just because of the luck that he's been having lately. Yeah, he did very good at the early part of the season. He had a point to prove.
Well, I think Kyle Busch will do excellent. I think you'll see him in the top 5 finish at the Roval.
He could.
I do. I can see him doing that.
I mean, I could see him winning either one of these 2 races, maybe even both.
Right.
I don't really see it happening.
With
but it wouldn't surprise
Talladega,
me.
it's just a matter of can he survive
Yes.
the big one or the 2 big ones.
And he's got that experience, just like a Denny Hamlin. He's been out there for so many years. He can see it coming.
Yeah.
He's got that feeling. But and at Daytona, had it been Daytona 500, he would have won. Had it been the Daytona 503 that we got, he didn't win.
Right.
Or whatever it was, whatever the situation.
But yeah, I see. I think Busher and Brad Keselowski I think they're going to survive this. I think they're going to come out great at Talladega, and I think they will both do okay at the Roval. I can see them doing better at Talladega than the Roval.
Yeah.
I see them maybe getting a 9th to 12th area at the Roval. At Talladega, I see them getting top 4.
Both of them.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I hope so.
I do too. But I think Bubba's got a chance at this Talladega race, just like the other 38 drivers do. But
Well, he
the
always
Roval's
seems,
what's going to take him out.
Yeah. He needs to survive. He's got a fast Toyota. He needs to just stay up front. Don't get too aggressive. Just take what it gives you. I mean, Talladega and Daytona has always been pretty good to him. He knows how to handle those tracks. He needs to just be patient, just let the cards fall where they may, and then survive the Roval. And I think it's kind of backwards for, well, not really backwards, for Reddick. He just needs to stay towards the front at Talladega and then let his skills shine at the Roval, because he's more of a road course guy. So I think he might win that race.
This is a hybrid track. They're fast on the ovals. I mean, half this race is on an oval, at Charlotte. So, and he's a top 5 road course driver out there right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's got a pretty good handle on Charlotte, I feel like. And I think that's what we agree on. Now, I think we're, just like how I mentioned on my strategy for Talladega, it's going to be complete opposite for my strategy on the bubble race at Charlotte Roval.
is I'm going to tell my guys, you go out there and get that fucking pole.
Yeah.
All of you. Go after it, because on these road courses, and I know it's not a 100% road course, but it's always that group, just like Talladega, it's always that group in the middle, especially in the middle, but also the back, that the accordion effect happens. When these cars in the first four rows go through the road course to start, it's an accordion effect rest of the way back from the last car to like row 5 or 6. Everybody starts bunching up, going 3, 4 wide, smacking into each other. Now your car's fucked up.
Right.
And half this track is on Charlotte Motor Speedway on the road on the oval.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. You done fucked your car up. You ain't gonna. You might finish the race, but you're not gonna finish up front.
Right.
So.
And we're bringing the stage cautions
The
back
pits.
for the Roval, which we discussed that a few weeks ago. But I think the ones that I'm really going to be watching for this round, both at Talladega and the Roval, is going to be Truex, Larson. I want to say I'm going to be watching Busch, but I don't have a whole lot of hope for him. And that's okay. That's okay.
I think he's going to pull out.
And
I think he's going to pull out of it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I do.
I was going to make a joke when you said that.
Yeah. I think you're going to see Bubba fall. You're going to see Busch successful.
And if Busch falls out of the playoffs right now, at this stage, that's fine. I mean, this is, you got to look at it.
He had a great year.
He's been racing for years and years and years, yes, but this is his first year with RCR. He's building the team. They are building
He's
what
got more wins this season than RCR's got in the last 4.
Right. But to expect them to win a championship is a little bit high. It's a little bit much for his first year at the organization.
No, I think he came.
I
think he showed up.
I think
he showed up day one at RCR's garage.
I think he come in
he's
there
like, let's get a
the
championship, motherfuckers. I think that's exactly what he did.
He come in. He opened up the doors.
I think he kicked
walked
them
in
open.
like Ric Flair.
Oh yeah.
He could have. I hope he did.
Yeah.
But if he goes out in the round of 12, by a realistic standpoint, in my opinion, if he goes out here, that's okay. He made the playoffs, and they're building the team.
Okay.
Now, the team has to, you got to look at it this way. The team has to get used to him.
Right.
Because they were used to Reddick. And this is a totally different person. And then he has to get used to this team, because he's been with JGR for, 15 years?
Right. But yeah, let's take the team aspect out of it, which it takes a team to win a championship, no doubt. But let's say put yourself in Kyle Busch mode right now. In your head, you're Kyle Busch.
Yeah. In my head, I could win the championship every year if I'm Kyle Busch.
Right.
That's the way.
And he could.
Yeah, he could. Skill wise, yes.
So, are you telling yourself, I made it to the round of 12. I'm okay with that.
No.
How you think you walked into RCR?
Like you said, I hope he kicked in the doors and walked in there like Ric Flair.
Yep.
But
and probably gave Austin a stone cold stunner.
He should
and
have.
when he woke up, he said, "Hey, we're gonna work
shave
on
that
some
mustache."
shit."
Yes, but I think, and I mean, you're getting older in life just like I am. I think back in our younger days, yes, if we was to do something very competitive, we expect to win right off the bat in a team sport. Whereas the older us knows that it's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to take, just because I'm the best in the world doesn't mean I'm going to go in there and win, because it's a team sport. We have to get these guys. Even though my skill can get us to the front, the pit crew needs some work, or the guys in the garage need a little work.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, we got to get all of these guys on the same page. And on day one, he might know that, hey, this is going to take some work. It's going to take some time.
It didn't take no. I mean,
that was for one race.
If you can win week 2 and week 6 and week 7, why can't you win? Your team had less time then.
Because maybe he needed to add to their notebook.
Right. So why?
You know what I mean?
So why would it be an issue now? You know, do I need to take
because
some shit out of your notebook?
it takes some adaptation, both on his part to adapt to them, so they can become a winning team, and on the team's part to adapt to him, so they can mesh. Right now, I mean, it's like
Same with Brad and going to Roush.
yes,
Right.
in that first year it was
It was dog
disaster.
shit, yeah.
Yeah, it was
It
disaster.
wasn't any worse.
But they were learning as they went, and now look at them.
Right.
And I say here within the next year or two, it depends on how many more years Kyle Busch has left in him. Kyle Busch could be in the same situation that Chris Busch or Brad Kay is in, as far as being with a new team and taking it to the top.
I think you'll see something. You mentioned earlier, we mentioned Kyle made a lot of money this week.
Yeah.
So he sold Rowdy and
Kyle Busch Motorsports.
Kyle Busch Motorsports to Spire Racing.
The truck team.
Right.
Yes.
Now, you think maybe a relationship developed there to where Kyle Busch gets a down the road, like Brad Keselowski got some ownership in Roush Fenway?
Could have.
You see something like that maybe popping up? I mean, because I could almost see something like, I hope I'm wrong, but I almost see like Tony Stewart almost not leaving NASCAR, but I can almost see him in the next few years, if shit don't get right, see him saying, hey, does anybody want to buy my half of Stewart Haas?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And Kyle would be great for that, but
Yeah.
I could also see Kyle maybe working into something with Spire here for down the road.
It could be. I mean, I was completely surprised when I heard that he sold the truck team. I thought, that's just one of them business things that you have.
Maybe he just didn't have time for it no more.
It's possible, and that's what he said in his
Yeah.
thing. And his family's growing, the kids are getting into racing and all that stuff. So he wants to do there and be there.
And that's just
there
it.
with him for
When you
that.
can't give something the attention that it deserves, you need to let it go.
But do you have to?
I think you do.
I'm saying in Kyle Busch's.
I don't think any of these
spot.
guys are doing it for the financial gain.
If you're Kyle Busch, are you in that truck garage every day?
No.
No. Why?
Because they got other shit to do.
Because you've hired the right people to run that garage, right?
Right.
So why do you need to be there? So why does he really need to sell it? I mean, I'm just saying from a business.
It still takes, you're not there every day. You might not be there every week, but there's still going to be things that you need to be there for, whether it's monthly or bi-weekly or
Right.
Anything like that. And if it's just not lining up
Even if you're
anymore,
just popping in the doors just to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
right.
But to me, I think it was a surprise to me just because that's a moneymaker. It's not his main moneymaker,
Right.
but it's another moneymaker that he could have forever. He could give that to the kids or whatever down the road. So, I mean, it must have been, and obviously I don't know the details. I don't know how much he sold it for, but it must have been one hell of a price tag to be willing to give that up. Something that you started from the ground up and made it the most successful truck team of all time.
Yeah.
And just hand the keys over to someone else. I don't know. To me, if I'm Kyle Busch, I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
But I don't know what all he's got going on.
Our kids are different ages.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about mine and yours and his.
Right.
It's I don't think he's going to have any.
He's not going to be hurt.
He's not going to have any issues handing the kids what they're going to get. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
It's
but at the same time, if you have that truck series,
it's kind of your baby.
Yeah.
Because that was your first ownership. It was,
Mhm.
but the price tag, the price tag could have been great too, and maybe it was one of the things where Samantha, Kyle's wife, is wanting to start her own venture on something, and Kyle says, you know what, you supported me through mine, I'm going to sell it, I'm going to make all this money,
Right.
a lot more than I put in it.
Mhm.
It's been a great investment, but I'm going to give that up and sell it so that you can go out on your venture now. She does influencer type stuff and stuff like that, but maybe it's a family decision, and it just is what it is. Maybe he's looking at starting an Xfinity team, or maybe he's selling it to put it in the bank to start his own monster team. We don't know.
Yeah, it could be. I was just thinking it was just kind of weird to sell it when you've got his son Brexton that's coming up through the ranks. I mean, obviously it's going to take some time before he gets to that point.
He won't have any trouble finding a ride.
Maybe, maybe not.
I
You
don't
know,
think so.
I mean, girls hasn't hit this kid's life yet. I mean, the young adult stuff that me and you went through as kids, it hasn't hit him yet. So we don't know. I mean, he may lose all interest in racing.
He
I
might.
doubt it, but it's possible. But you've got a garage that's guaranteed for him as dad. You've got a garage guaranteed for him in the best truck in that garage.
Maybe
And you're
that's
gonna
what
give that
influenced him.
Could be.
I
don't
mean,
know.
look what happened with Joe and his grandson. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Maybe it hit home with him so much, like, I don't ever want my son to be in a position where somebody thinks he's going to get a ride because his dad's name is on the car.
I don't know.
You know
I
what
think-
I mean?
Yeah, I know.
He's
what you
going
mean.
he's going to get there because he's going to earn it.
Right.
And
And he's going to get there. I mean, even Richard, when he signed Kyle, he said, "Hey, I've got a car for Brexton when he gets here."
Right.
So I mean, he's not.
I mean, Joe Biden would put fucking Hunter Biden in a position if he could. You know what I'm saying?
Pretty
And-
sure he already did.
Right. You know what I'm saying? That's what air quotes are for.
Yeah.
You know, in a position,
Mhm.
and he, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, all
That's-
dads are going to do that for their kids if they can.
I mean, and he's putting a crackhead in that position,
Yeah.
So,
Well, I want to point out a couple things
all right.
before we get into this fantasy stuff. A couple other things, real quick. They announced this week that the All-Star race was coming back to North Wilkesboro.
Yep.
For next year, and I'm happy for that. I still want to see. I think they're going to repave it before they race on it, which is good. I think that might be the first step to getting a points race back at North Wilkesboro because I
Yeah.
think that's what everybody wants to see.
Still need to get Rockingham back.
Still need to get Rockingham back. I think they're working on that.
Yep, they are.
They announced that the Brickyard next year is going to be back on the oval. I think we all kind of
For the
expected
anniversary.
That. Yes, for the anniversary, which I'm good with that. I wanted to see them back on the oval.
I'm not opposed to them to doing one road course and one oval there.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
And we've talked about
I
that.
think maybe if you do 2 years on the oval, 2 years on the road course, and then the back and forth, it kind of keeps it fresh. Or maybe do one oval and one road course per year.
That's what I'm saying. Do one per year.
Yeah,
on
I'm
each,
good with that.
You know,
Because the road course at Indy is
pretty good.
it's exciting.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Good
a good
turnout.
race. Yeah. Because I mean, the place will hold how many people? Psh,
250,000,
yeah,
250,000
that's
strong.
not too bad.
That's pretty good.
That's a good little payday.
I mean, if Indy don't sell out, oh well, it's 250,000 people. You
Yeah.
know, but if they was close, that's better than 99% of the tracks around the United States. So,
right? I mean, you got the facilities, and it will hold two dates per year
Yeah.
if you want it to. I would probably do that.
Yeah,
You know,
and
if
sell the
I'm
ticket.
NASCAR.
Sell the tickets as a package deal. You know, buy one race for $50 or buy two for $75. Then you know what I'm saying. Then you're
Yeah.
getting people. Then you're putting asses in the seats twice a year
Right.
at a discount. You know.
Oh yeah.
Come on now.
I mean, I think they should. I mean, it's the racetrack in the country.
Right.
I mean, I know there's some big racetracks out there, but none
It's
of them are
the
more
racing
hallowed
capital
grounds.
of the world.
It's hallowed grounds.
Right. I
you
mean,
know?
Jeff Gordon's from California. He'll still say he's from Indiana.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Just
he moved
because,
here.
Exactly.
But where would you rather be from? Indiana or California? I mean,
Me, Indiana.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. So we got.
No offense to our California listeners.
I think they know what they're going through.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm sorry. So we've got the All-Star race. We've got the Brickyard coming back. What else did we have? Anything? I don't think.
No, I think that's about all the news in NASCAR this week, other than Ryan Preece and Briscoe going to
Shake and bake.
Shake and Bake.
That's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I hope they do that.
Yeah.
You know, at least once or twice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this fantasy stuff before we get. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I noticed I've got the count here on the big board. Chevy is now at 15 races won. Toyota's at 9. Ford's still at 6.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of the big board, I've still got your bold prediction. that Ford would win 5 of the 10 playoff races.
Yep.
How you feel about that?
I'm still gonna hang on to that. I'll never back down, but they're not doing me any justice right now.
No, I mean we're 4 races in. Ford ain't won one yet.
Right. So
Talladega's gonna be the 5th. That's probably gonna be
you think so?
one of their best chance. It's gonna be that's the 5th race in the playoffs.
Right, but I'm just saying I think we see a Ford win coming here. I do.
I hope we do.
I do. I see a Ford win
because
coming.
I'm hoping Brad K can do it.
I am too.
Just because I picked him fantasy standings. It was either him
Well,
or Ryan Blaney.
I want to see him get another win. I really do.
Well, yeah, me too. And I think
he's put the work in.
He's pushed Busher. He's put Busher in a good place, and he's pushed him along to a couple of them wins. But I want to see him get one of his own now as the owner driver.
Yeah.
And
and we know he's great at Talladega. He's got 6 wins there. I mean, he knows what the hell he's doing. It's just getting that right moment.
Yeah.
And
that perfect storm.
And maybe he needs to change that way of thinking a little bit. Maybe he's waiting for that gut instinct to say, go now. Maybe he needs to take that moment, grab that bull by the horns and do it when he wants to instead of listen to his gut, because something's not working for him because he hasn't won there in a few years.
Well, I mean, what was it? A few years ago, he would have won that Bubba Wallace race.
Rain.
The rain delay that he was winning until
there was raindrops on everybody's windshield, but
right.
They had to wait until Bubba got in front to call it.
Yeah. So he could have 7 there, but with the fantasy stuff, I went with Brad K.
We both did.
Yeah, both of us went with Brad K. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Brad K's on the board.
Probably the most of any pick.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that we only have 1 Bubba Wallace pick, which is Sam, and I am really surprised that the number 1 person on this list did not pick the Bubba Wallace.
Well, I think he's saving him for the last 2 races of the year. Now that we know who he's picking for Talladega, I think he's counting on that championship, and he's going to save his number 1 guy for the last 2 races.
His strategy's starting to show now, huh?
Yep.
I think you might be right.
And
we're talking about
listen,
HR Scotty.
Bubba Wallace, I don't know if Bubba Wallace listens to this or not, but we mentioned last week that we got to talk to the 23XI crew, and they were ecstatic that they had a huge fan out there. But I'm just going to say this. If Bubba's listening to this or Bubba ever gets a chance, because they know about the Ride the Wall podcast now.
Yeah.
So maybe he does listen to it, but if Bubba's listening to this, he needs to send his number 1 fan something to thank him for this. You know what I'm saying? Because Bubba don't have a lot of cheerleaders out there.
You're right.
He needs to thank the ones he does have. So, I mean, if he could give him a shout out somehow, I think he ought to do it. I think it'd be great for his career.
I think it would. I mean, that's... Yeah, I never even thought about the HR Scotty saving him for the last 2.
I guarantee
now that you say that, I think that's what he's doing. And
he thinks he's going to get a 0 and a 0 the last 2 races of the year. He's got it wrapped up.
He's going to win it.
Right.
Yeah. See, I never thought about that aspect of it. So, I think you might be right. We had a couple of Eric Jones picks, which kind of surprised me. I don't know why it does. I mean, Eric Jones been doing pretty good here lately. These last 3, 4, 5 races.
He does pretty good on. I mean, he got 8th at Atlanta, which is a super speedway in a sense.
I just never really paid much attention to Eric Jones as far as, I don't know. He's just kind of, once he went to Legacy, he's kind of fallen off the radar for me, So I don't really pay much attention to what he's doing. He just kind of comes out of nowhere and he does really good here and there. It's a select here and there.
And I can see why a couple people picked him, because he is that guy that you don't hear about all day, and then they're in the last 30 laps. He's in the top 10, you know. And that's exactly how it worked out for me at Atlanta.
Right.
He's having a shit day. I mean, he wasn't having a shit day. He was progressing 1, 2 cars at a time, slowly. But come time to wave that checker flag, he was in 8th spot.
Yeah.
So
He's been doing really good, especially for a team that don't really have much support because, they're in their lame duck season. They're going to be in Toyota next year, so they're just kind of, I feel like they're fighting for scraps.
yeah,
But he's doing really good with it. So Hunter picked the Christopher Busher, so we're going to see what that almanac says.
Yep.
I'm really surprised that H.R. Scotty picked Joey Logano, though.
Well, I mean, he's one of them drivers that can win anywhere, I mean.
He can. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he wins.
Right. I mean,
I didn't really have him on the radar for Talladega.
Yeah.
There's other tracks that I would definitely think of Joey Logano first or second pick, but
I mean, it's just so easy to get, no matter who the driver is or how popular or how talented they are, it's so easy to get caught up in a big one at Talladega that it don't discriminate.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It really don't.
It's kind of like Darlington. I mean, if you
if
you mess up just a little bit, you're going to know it.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting week. We've got picks are all over the board, but we got one Chase Elliott. We got a couple Stenhouses. We got a few auto picks in there.
Yeah, I was surprised by Tyler taking Chase Elliott, but again, it's anybody's race.
Yeah,
so
it is.
I think this week at Talladega, it's going to shake a lot of things up. It's going to make for an interesting week for fantasy league between Talladega and Charlotte.
Oh yeah.
We're going to see some good things happen here.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, Talladega. I mean, it's right there with Daytona. I mean, you can't plan for anything. You just pull a name out of the hat and just hope for the best.
It's worse for it than Daytona. I think you can predict Daytona more than you can Talladega.
Really?
Yeah.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Well, we'll find out. I mean,
it's all about qualifying here.
HR Scotty has been talking some smack to me because I'm still behind him. But I've been talking smack all year. I'm trying to lay off the smack talking right now, just because I think Carva's kicking me a little bit.
Right.
But I don't know. We got Josh in between us, and I think I'm going to go back to what I said earlier.
3 different car numbers.
Yes.
So it's going to be real interesting for
I like where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
I like where I'm sitting. All I need is for Brad K to do what Brad K does. I'm feeling pretty confident. That's right. I'm pulling for a Ford this week. So. But that's really all I've got. You got anything? Anything else to add to this?
That's it.
No, that's all I got. Well, that'll do it for this week, I guess.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be back with some big news.
Yeah. Hopefully we can talk about a Brad K win at Talladega next week. But
come on.
Yeah. But that's it for us this week. Be sure to tune in next week when we're talking about whatever we're talking about. And if you're going to the races this week, wherever it is, take somebody new with you. Keep the sport alive. And we will talk to you next week.